So the Arabs understand the word mawlid. So the word mawlid is understood by three ways. So number one, it literally means birth. So the mawlid means birth. Another meaning for the word for mawlid is the time of birth. So number one is what? Is birth. And number two is the time of birth. And number three is the makan, is the place of birth. So all three, number one is what?
Birth.
Birth. Number two?
Time of birth.
Time of birth. Number three?
Place of birth.
Place. If you deny the mawlid, this is kufr. You deny the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, and you're saying that he would Mafi Mawlid for Rasul Barak alayhi. Alhamdulillah. Now, for those who are new here, alhamdulillah, I'm going to take you back to a story, alhamdulillah. So you have to imagine that you are in Makkah. You are in Makkah. And you see a scene. And the scene that you see, that in Makkah, you see some people standing and some people sitting near the Kaaba. And you have some people buying and selling. Some people are talking, some people are walking, some sitting in groups. And then you see a scene. And the scene that you see is someone buying and selling slaves. Slaves. And the young girl for sale. And for those who have done the seerah with us, you will understand where I'm coming from. A young black girl was for sale. A young black girl was for sale from Ethiopia. People passing by, and who's going to buy a black girl? People passing by and no one's buying this black girl. And in those days, if you were a slave, you had no rights. You had no rights if you were a slave. And then what happens from the crowd? A young man comes along. Extremely handsome man from a noble family. He comes along and he sees the young girl. And he buys this girl. He purchases the girl. He takes her home and he gives her the rights. Really looks after her. And then the father of this young man decides that this young man must get married. So they go around looking for the best woman in town. Best woman. Because they're from a noble family. So they looked around for the best woman who will marry my son. And then they found someone. Extremely beautiful. From the most noblest family from the Quraysh. So they get married. And then what happens? This man, he gives the slave as a gift to his wife. Right? He gives this young girl to his wife. And the wife really looked after this young girl. She gave her the rights of a slave. And if you were in those days in Makkah, you see this lady walking with her slave. So who is this person? The one who purchased this person, his name is Sayyid Abdullah. And the woman he married is Lady Amina. And the young girl that was bought, her name is Barakah. Barakah. A black young girl. Her name is what?
Barakah.
Ayman. But her name is Barakah.
Ayman.
Now what happens? They get married. Sayyid Abdullah and Amina get married. And then he's sent on a mission. He's sent on a business trip. And he goes to a place called Yathrib. Now we know it as Medina. Now, Barakah is a lady who will do all the running around for Amina. And she said that she will go out listening to hear if Abdullah is coming back or not. Because Amina had fallen in love with her husband. She loved her husband. But not only that, she was now pregnant with the Prophet ﷺ. So she wanted to know when her husband is going to come back. So they were here. If a caravan is coming back from Sham, or if a caravan is coming back from Medina, and Barakah will go out just to hear the news, if Abdullah has come or not. And then one day she said she went out to hear the news if Abdullah has come back. And then she heard the news that Mata Abdullah, that Sayyid Abdullah radiallahu anhu, that he passed away. So she went back to the house to give this news. The news that your husband has passed away. So when she goes home, she tells the news. And they say, Amina fainted. When she told the news, she faints. And every time she'll come around, she'll faint. And the reason was because she was intensely in love with Sayyid Abdullah. Now she's pregnant with the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and time goes by. This is beautiful now. This is for those who don't know about the birth of the Prophet alayhi wasallam. You know, Amina said that the pregnancy was extremely easy, no pain, very easy, very smooth, no difficulties at all. And then she said on the first month when she was pregnant, she was in her room and this being came right in front of her. And she got frightened. And the man said to her, don't be afraid. And she said, Man anta, who are you? She said, Ana Adam. I am Adam, the father of all mankind. And I've come here to say salams to Sayyidina Muhammad. And every month a prophet will come to say salams to the womb of Lady Amina. Now the time comes for the birth. The grandfather of Sayyidina Muhammad, his name is Abdul Muttalib. His name is Shayba, but they call him Abdul Muttalib. And he was at the Kaaba. And they say the woman, when she was going to give birth, who comes to help her? Number one is Maryam alayhi salam, the mother of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. And then also who comes is Asiya. Asiya is the wife of who? Pharaoh. Right? Now it's amazing why Asiya and why Maryam alayhi salam. They say when Pharaoh found out that Asiya was in love and was on the deen of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he took her out and he put her on a cross to torture her. And every day he would say to her, you can have all this kingdom, just say no to La ilaha Musa. So she said no. And every day she was in pain. And one day he went there to see her and she was smiling. She was smiling. And said, why are you smiling? She was given the glad tidings by the angel that she will be the wife of the Prophet in Jannah. That she will be the Zawj of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi fil Jannah. So this is the Mawlid of Prophet Barak alayhi. So when he was born, the news went to Abdul Muttalib, who came and carried the baby to the Kaaba, and he went around. And Yusammihu Muhammad. They named him Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is ajiba. They were very They were very amazed by why would you call someone called Muhammad? Because this is a ghareeb. There's a name that was not known amongst the Arabs, you know. But he wanted to be called Muhammad. He wanted him called Muhammad, so he's praised in the heavens and praised on earth. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now look at this, subhanallah. This is really beautiful now. I'm going to give you like a description of the Prophet. Because we know about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we want to know a description of Sayyidina Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. And the interesting thing is that this description has come to us from the young Sahaba. Not from the old Sahaba, but from the young Sahaba. Because the old Sahaba would look down like this. But the young Sahaba would look like this at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when Sayyidina Muhammad passed away, Sayyidina Hassan was about 7 years old. Sayyidina Hassan, the grandson, was about 7 years old. Now the one who narrates this tradition is a man called Anas ibn Malik. This is amazing. They say, Hajara Sayyidina Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam min Makkah ila Medina. They heard, the people of Medina heard that the Prophet is coming. But no one had seen the Prophet. Like you and us, like you and me here. We don't know the Prophet, we never seen the Prophet barakatuh. Walakin we have iman in the Prophet barakatuh. So in Medina, the people of Medina did not see the Prophet. But they heard about the Prophet barakatuh, that he is coming from Mecca. So every day they will come out. The children will come out. The old will come out. The kids, they'll all come outside Medina just to wait for the Prophet to come. Just to wait for him to come. And then it became so hot that they'll go back home. Every day like this. And one day, they were going back because it was so hot. One man was on the roof. He says, Sayyati Nabi, the Prophet has come. But they didn't know who the Prophet was. Because they were Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Muhammad. So they were coming. لا يعرف من سيدنا محمد من سيدنا أبو بكر. Who is Abu Bakr? Who's Muhammad? So there was a tree there, shajara, and under the tree they sat under the tree, Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Muhammad. And they came up and they looked at Sayyidina Muhammad and looked at Abu Bakr. Man Sayyidina Muhammad and Abu Bakr. And the reason is because Sayyidina Muhammad and Abu Bakr were together for 3 days in the cave. 3 days. So what was happening was that the nur of Rasul was reflecting on the face of Abu Bakr. So they didn't know who was Sayyidina Muhammad, Sayyidina Abu Bakr. So when they all came, Sayyidina Abu Bakr saw this. So what does he do, Sayyidina Abu Bakr? He stands up. And when he stands up and he takes his burdah. He takes his shawl and he covers the head of the Rasul like this. And they realize that's the Prophet. That's the Prophet. So they all came up to him. People coming up to him. But then this woman comes, the mother of Sayyidina Anis comes up. And she says, Ya Rasulullah, I've been watching people giving you gifts. وَلَكَنْ مَا عِنْدِي أَيْ شَيْءٍ. I don't have anything to give to you, Ya Rasulullah. But I have a child. I have a son. He's your gift from me. Khud, take my son as a gift. And pray for him, Ya Rasulullah. I mean, he was 10 years old. The son was 10 years old. This is my gift. Take him, Ya Rasulullah, and pray for him. So Sayyidina Rasulullah, he makes a dua. Ya Allah, give him a long life. Give him a long life. Number 2, make him rich. And number 3, give him many children. And Sayyidina Ali said, people around me were dying. But I was not dying. I was like one of the oldest people amongst the Sahaba. And he said, my garden will give fruit twice every year. Every other garden will give fruit once in Medina, but my garden, he said, I had 90 children, grandchildren. 90. And I buried half of them. Half of them. So this is his description. Because he spent 10 years in the house of the Prophet. So he gives a description of Sayyidina Rasul. We give it very short and sweet. So he says, Sayyidina Rasul, Sayyidina Anis, he says that Rasul, where are we? He said, كان الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس بطويل بائني. He was not طويل بائني. So that means he was not very, very tall, صلى الله عليه وسلم. But what does he mean, very, very tall? Who is he comparing it with? He's comparing it with people like Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab. Because Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab was touching 8 foot. Sayyidina Abbas was touching 8 foot. Sayyidina Hamza was touching 8 foot. So Sayyidina Muhammad was about 6'3", sallallahu alayhi. Where else? But they say that when Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Muhammad walked together, holding hands, Sayyidina Muhammad always looked taller, sallallahu alayhi. And if he was in a majlis with tall people, Sayyidina Muhammad always looked taller, alayhi salatu wasalam. Then he says he was not short, qasir. Then he says, sallallahu alayhi, he says, wala abid am haq. And nor was he, this means that his face, his complexion was fair, but not without redness. He had like a redness in there, alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? And then they say about him, his hair was not ja'd, qatat. It's not tightly curled, like our African brothers. Not tightly curled. No sabt, and no was straight. But there's a curl to his hair, like a wave to his hair, alayhi salatu wasalam. So no was he very, very tall, and no was he short, alayhi salatu wasalam. No was he extremely dark, and no was he very, very fair, alayhi salatu wasalam. No was he born in summer, no was he born in winter. He was born right in the middle in spring, alayhi salatu wasalam. No was he born at night time, no was he born in daytime. He was born right in the middle, sallallahu alayhi. And this is why our ummah is the middle way. Our ummah is the middle way, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah give us tawfiq.